Peyton. Nice to see you again to this Sunday evening slash noon. Today we want to talk about a quote by Naval Ravikant, where he states that desire is a contract that you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. There's so much wisdom in this. And what do you think about this? What is your idea and your take on this?
Great to be back here. This is a wonderful quote and well put by Naval. And to me, this talks a lot about the true effect of desire on our mind, on our well-being. A lot of times, desire comes into our perceptions, into our reality with a bit of a honey tip, a bit of a sweet flavor, and a dopamine hit that makes it quite compelling for us to indulge in, to pursue, and for it to become a larger and larger part of our awareness and thought process. And in reality, desire amplifies our awareness of the gap between what we currently have, our current state of being, our current possessions, our current state of life, our current relationships, and what we want or what we wish that we had in the future. It's a heightened awareness of lack, ultimately. And desire here in English, it has multiple meanings. I think it's useful painting a clear distinction early on in the difference between a desire in the sense of a wise orientation toward a goal, which is not inherently problematic and doesn't inherently lead to suffering, versus craving or thirst. This sense that I am in the grip of wanting something. I am lusting after this in one way or another. I am thirsting after having XYZ aspect of my circumstances or life change for the better as I define it. And these cravings, this desire in the sense of thirst for a change versus my current reality, this is the source of most of our suffering. This is the source of a great deal of everyday chronic discontent with our life and with our current circumstance that I am very, very far from immune from. Many of us are swimming in this all the time without realizing that we are creating some form of a prison around our awareness, around our perceptions. Desire is the reason that I can look out my window and see blue sky, some wind blowing, some birds, some trees with my technical visual field, but completely not be aware of any of that and be consumed by some future thing that I want or some circumstance that I wish was different or something that I'm frustrated about my reality. It's on a very basic level, a disagreement with the way things currently are. And the effect of this is pretty easy to see in our own experience and elsewhere, but it can be done as well experimentally. I've found it really interesting, a reflection. I think I got it from Joseph Goldstein, who says to observe the feeling carefully the moment a desire passes you by. And when you do this, when you see what it's like to have some desire, so perhaps I am really craving some external success or some sort of financial goal or something like this, and I'm letting that kind of swim around my mind. I'm feeling the greed of this vision that I have for the future or myself, and I'm really ultimately saying that, or I'm holding my happiness hostage, saying like I'm not gonna on an implicit level, I'm not gonna be content until I get this thing that I'm after. Then if we watch our mind as our mind kind of lets go of that, and if we look at the space between our thoughts of, okay, I'm really thinking about this vision, I'm really desiring this thing, I really want my business to grow to XYZ level. And then when I watch that thought pass by and I watch it go to nothing or to just being aware of my senses, you can actually feel, if you pay close attention, you can feel the relief of letting a desire pass you by. You can feel the difference psychologically of the contraction of craving something that you don't have, and then allowing your mind to slip back into an awareness of the present moment and an acceptance of everything exactly as it already is in the now. There is a relief to be found there. And playing around with that experiment, we can see that we spend a lot of our time, a lot of our life, not in the state of relief, not in the state of psychological, subjective liberation, but rather in a state of wishing that things were different than they already are, in a state of unalignment or discontent with our actual reality as it presently is right in this moment in reality already. And this circumstance is super common, extremely conditioned. Everybody's constantly reinforcing this. This is a cacophonous chorus of culture that, on some level, we can't avoid or escape when living a lay life in the real world and solving practical problems. But we can see this for what it is and see the effect that this has on our mind and our psychology and our state of being and our happiness and the way that we can be present for ourselves and for others, and see that there's a balance to strike here. There is an understanding of the way that this can grip my mind in a way that leads to suffering, and how this is playing out in many, many people, and how natural it is to fall back into being consumed by craving and dissatisfaction. And so that's what I believe is the punchline of this is an orientation and understanding of the cause and effect of this posture toward reality and toward experience, and a wise form of desire, more of an orientation or a way of orienting ourselves or looking forward, or a positive intention to let go of this demand that reality is a different way than it already is, that I will get something how I want it, how I define it as good or bad, and stepping back into an area where we have a posture of, yes, being active, being in the real world, taking the next step, doing the next wise thing with a positive intention to manifest the vision that we may have for ourselves in the world, but doing so with an internal heart, an internal understanding, and an internal intention of acceptance of reality, of being in alignment with the universe and how it actually does play out, in embracing, if this is how you prefer to think about it, I personally do, embracing the will of a higher power, the will of God, the will of the universe, the will of fate, or however one prefers to talk about it, and having an intention to go with the flow of experience and be in alignment with reality as we really do encounter it, even as we act within it. What are your thoughts about desire and in a wise orientation and in a wise relationship with this emotion?
Thanks for your thoughts, Peyton. I totally agree with your take on the difference between the wise aims one has in one's life, like building out a vision and therefore undertaking some hard challenges, or which are not easy to fulfill and not easy to continue, and cravings, which are things that we desperately want and are in need for somehow, and are potential source of suffering as well. And there we can I love the framing of that desire as like a contract that you make. You can also decide to breach that contract in a way that you say, okay, I am desiring this, and I'm aware that I desire the thing that that is right now, not as it is right now. So I want to change it. So I feel this energy coming up, and I want to change the thing that I wish to be different right now. But the most useless source of suffering, in my opinion, is wanting to change something that already happened, like having a desire towards a thing that is already fixed, and suffering needlessly because you want to change how you have acted in the past. And these useless and needless desires we can definitely drop with reaching the contract of not desiring, wanting to change the past anymore. So this is definitely a useful reminder for some people, for myself as well. because I'm not immune to this, like you already told us. And I also like to think about it in terms of engineering, because it feels like a control system to me. Our internal system is a control system which has some aims, some desires, which tends to be then the optimization criterion, which we want to optimize the situation and the system how it is towards the goal, and with the cost function as well. The engineer always asks, okay, if somebody says this is optimal, what is the optimization criterion? What is the cost function? Definitely desire is a way to shape your life. But then we also have to shape our life in a conscious manner. We have to pick our desires wisely. If you desire to have 100 pairs of shoes, then it's probably not that wise a desire, because you have to work like 2 or 3 months for that, and then you exchange so much of your life just to get some shoes. But if you have the desire of, okay, I wanna really provide my family with the best possible circumstances to live in, to thrive, not just survive. This is a noble desire, which makes it, in my opinion, worth it, worth the struggle, worth the anxiety. When you see the discrepancy between, I wanna provide actually better conditions than these precarious conditions for my family. This discrepancy you see when you see the reality as it is versus your vision you have for a possible future that you wish for you and for others to become real. And every time you have a desire, and reality differs from that desire, then you tend to become anxious. And this anxiety sometimes is a good call to action, where you can take in and invest energy and change the situation towards a better outcome. But sometimes it's just a desire. It's just an anxiety which wrecks your internal system, which overloads your processor, and you cannot function correctly anymore because you have too many things going on which overpower your system. So therefore, choose wisely and pick only a few desires which you really contract yourself to wishing to be fulfilled, so to say. So if you want to be peaceful, your optimization criterion is peace, and then pick no desires. This is the Buddhist way. This is the way of the Stoics. Okay, have no desires, then you have no problems. Because you accept reality as it already is, and therefore you can deal with it, and you will live this moment. But if you pick too much, then you do not have the traction of like one vision. If you have one vision, then you have a traction. You have this vision that pulls you in. But if you have like 20 or 30 or 50 visions out of your range of possible futures, that sometimes an idea comes to you and says, okay, I want to live through you. Then you say, okay, you are a possible future. You are a possible. But if you desire to make them all real, then you do not have traction anymore. You get distracted in all kinds of directions. And therefore, you have to choose wisely which few desires you want to pick and contract yourself into, so that it is worth to be anxious about delivering and building a system which carries you towards your vision and carries you closer towards it.
Absolutely. I think that the way that you put that is reminiscent of another way of looking at it, which is desire is really holding your happiness hostage. You're making certain demands that I'm not going to be happy unless I get this or that. I'm not going to be happy unless the next thing happens. And ultimately, we are the beneficiaries or the consequence bearers of our choices as it relates to whether or not we're holding our happiness hostage, whether or not we're making demands of reality that says, I'm not coming out until I get um, a brand new truck and a chocolate cake, and everybody thinks a certain thing about me, and I have a certain amount of money and respect. And it's us ultimately, it's our own happiness, it's our own soul that we're keeping in the grip of these demands. Nobody else's. It's us that bears the consequences of these desires. And so there is a middle way to find. There is absolutely virtue in having a vision for our life. We are not meant, in my view, to take the talents and gifts that we are given and then to just bury them in the ground and not to put them into good use. We have a body, we have a mind, we have certain talents, certain gifts, certain capacity to manifest good in the world for ourselves and for others, certain capacity to learn and grow and flourish and enjoy. And these things are wise to have a positive intention to orient ourselves toward. But it's so important in all of this, and even to achieve all of these ends that we have, that we're wise to orient ourselves toward, it's very important to find the middle way, because lust, addiction, craving, thirst, all of these words sort of signify the same underlying posture, the same underlying emotion, the same attitude toward our experience, and in the same contraction and suffering from experience, and almost this sensation that we hold on so tightly that we get rope burn. Or another piece of advice that I've heard around this is, if you want to have a little peace, give up a little. If you want to have a lot of peace, give up a lot. And if you want to have complete peace, give up completely. And in the sense of letting go and opening ourselves to however reality presents it, even as we do put our energy and our talents and our mind to use in manifesting whatever vision we have. Can we accept that much is outside of our control? Can we accept that we are going to encounter whatever we actually do encounter, and that our actions will play out in the real world in a way that we can't completely expect in advance, we can't really control. And so we must embody some level of faith, some level of trust, some level of acceptance, some level of embracing of reality as we find it. And like you say, absolutely including every single thing that has ever happened in the past, including and especially the things that we ourselves have done or mistakenly done in the past. All of that is completely outside of our control. And so the more we grip, the more we resist against reality, the more that we ourselves are holding ourselves hostage, the more that we ourselves are making a contract with ourselves to be unhappy until we get what we want. And this is, once again, a middle way that each of us must learn to navigate for ourselves. This is the balance that only we individually can find within our own mind, within our own soul, and in leaning on our own intuition and in our own experience with the universe. All of us needs to find our way to this in our given point, and all of us, me included, make many mistakes as it relates to this, and completely lose sight of this, and find ourselves in the grip of dissatisfaction and in the grip of suffering, because everything is impermanent. Everything that we possibly can even get that we desire is going to fade. Everybody that we know will be sick and they will die, and then we will get sick and then we will die. Suffering, pain, dissatisfaction, not getting what we want, getting what we don't want. All of this is 100% going to happen to every single one of us, and then we will all die, and everybody that we know will die. This is the reality of our existence. And this doesn't have to be a curse as long as we're not gripping on to imposing our specific thoughts onto reality and expecting it to conform to exactly our wishes. If we do that, we will cause ourselves to suffer. But this is also a beautiful existence. This is also a beautiful flow. If we look at the actual state of what it is like to be conscious prior to imposing our will and our thoughts on how things should or shouldn't be, or what we label as good or bad, if we can step behind all of that, we can see that peace is already always available to us. There is a grace and a presence within our own souls that we can always tap into if we can allow ourselves to let go and embrace reality and release this contraction of our own minds, of our own desires for things to be different than how they already are. And it's an amazing blessing that that's always already available to us. But this is once again something that nobody is going to be probably reminding us about on a day-to-day basis. Things are going to constantly be telling us that we should want things to be a different way than how they already are, or we should be mad at this person for this thing, or we should be dissatisfied or unhappy until XYZ thing happens in the real world, or until we achieve XYZ goal. And ultimately, my intention for myself that I'm very far from fully integrating is to not drive as hard of a bargain with my happiness, and to not pick up these desires so carelessly, and to be very intentional about the things that I really do want, and to commit to letting go and accepting things as they actually play out, even if I do what's within my control to manifest very specific things that I really do value. I should let go of, one, all of the petty things that aren't things that I deeply value, but two, understand that I'm not going to see this path and how it plays out in advance, and it's going to be a rocky ride, and it's going to be uncertain, and there's going to be anxiety and fear around not being in control of exactly how this is going to play out. And that's a part of the journey, and that's not something that I can change. That's not something that any of us can change. We really do have to play the game that is before us and accept the uncertainties and the bumpiness of this path that we walk if we want to be in harmony with it, and if we don't want to suffer within our minds. And so, much easier said than done. Definitely not something that I'm close to mastering, but it's an intention that I have to grow more and more into, even as I'm kind of walking this external path in the real world.
Man, beautifully put. That you have the control over holding your own happiness hostage. And you have the control, so therefore you also have the responsibility to release yourself, release your happiness again in your life through desiring not things you cannot have, things that already happened. And therefore, just don't suffer unnecessarily. And this is easier said than done, because you first have to be aware of when you suffer unnecessarily, and you have to really let go of the past as it has been, and your illusion about how things could have been different, how things could have turned out differently when you experienced them. You have to put down the illusion and just deal with reality as it is. And therefore, you have to decide for yourself about what you really want. And this is also easier said than done, because we are mimetic creatures. We desire for things that people around us want and have. We are happier when we are like with $100 in our pockets around people with only 50 cents in their pockets, than with $5,000 in our pockets around people with $10,000 in their pockets. So we are deeply mimetic creatures, but also therefore we have to be aware of things and desires and wishes that are prestigious. I guess Paul Graham quoted once that prestige is like a powerful magnet that even wraps around your belief about what you could enjoy or what you would enjoy. And this powerful magnet wraps around your own beliefs. So you have to be really careful about, okay, is this a thing with high prestige? Is this a prestigious position? And why? That's the question. Why does it have so much prestige attached to it? Because it's a trap. Because sometimes it has to have this prestige for people to give up so much and suffer so much to get into the position to be identified with a prestigious position. And therefore, is it really the thing that you want for yourself, that you really want to see be fulfilled in your life? Is it like one of the so to say, big five for life, or is it like really the main goals and dreams that you just out of your whole heart, out of your utmost being, you really want to live out, you really want to see grow, you really want to fulfill the potential, because you know this is the unique potential that you have. And if you really know for yourself, if you reflected on yourself and experienced feelings about certain things, and then you get closer to yourself, and then you really know, then your gut really knows things about you that you consciously sometimes not know. And therefore, is it really the thing that you really want? Not just prestige or mimesis or things that your parents want you to be or want you to have or want you to fulfill a certain societal expectation, like this corset of the societal expectation or the societal guilt that sometimes is put upon us, and we have different opinions than the mainstream and so on. And therefore, we definitely have to watch out to make the things conscious that are within us, the feelings about our own potential and about our own wishes. We have to make it transparent to gain some insights and to reflect in regular time intervals. So because we are complex adaptive systems in an ever-changing environment, like you said, everything is changing. People we love will become sick. People we love will die. And there's nothing we can do about it in the long run. In the long run, we are all the same dust where we came from. And therefore, we have to remind ourselves to really focus on the most important things. So the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And therefore, we have to regularly reflect, because sometimes it's worth to desire to be healthy if we are sick. And this is the most important thing then. So we have to drop other priorities for first reaching and fulfilling our health again, fulfilling this desire to be healthy again. And therefore, in this dynamic, it's even more important to regularly reflect and regularly have insight into one's own gut, and regularly talk about these concepts with you, Peyton.
I appreciate you, man. This has been a great conversation. May we go into this week not driving such a hard bargain, holding our happiness hostage. May we have the clarity of sight to not accidentally pick up desires from mimesis and those around us without intentionality. And may we have some clarity around charting the middle way of wise intention without falling into the grip of perpetual dissatisfaction. I appreciate you very much. I will see you next week.
Brother. See you next week, brother. I appreciate you. May we be well and happy.
Agreed.
See you soon, brother.